by the Allied forces during World War One. Oh, hold on. Let me just. The Allies won the Western Front through the Hundred Days Offensive, leading to an eventual armistice ending the First World War on November 11th, 1918. This left Germany weak and poor, kind of like me. The weakness of the German government, combined with an economic crisis in the nation, paved the way for Adolf Hitler to complete an overhaul of the nation and take full control of the country. His total rule over the nation is today referred to as a totalitarian dictatorship, a term used to describe several figures in history following the First World War. This is including but not limited to Joseph Stalin in Soviet Russia, Benito Mussolini in Fascist Italy, Mao Zedong in China, Pol Pot in Khmer. The list goes on and on. All these leaders share a common trait beyond just being totalitarian rulers. In order to gain their power, they use the tools of totalitarianism to sway public opinion in their favor, whether for better or for worse. Our first two interviewees are British national historian Mark Bronswood and American figure John Green, introducing us to what a dictator is and some tips we can use to avoid and prevent one from appearing. First off, we should explain what makes a dictator. Dictator is someone who can, I guess you could say, demands and holds full control over the country. They control all aspects of the nation: government, economy, public life, private life, work. Everything is orchestrated and manipulated by one person and his political faction. All the dictators you see online control everything about their country, innit? Adolf Hitler and his Third Reich, Francisco Franco and Franco Spain, they all held absolute power. What to do? Well, personally, I would point most to the current situation in your country. Watch out for the use of economic or political weakness as a tool to sway public opinion. Dictators in history have almost always emerged when their nation was lacking in democratic traditions or was experiencing an extreme economic crisis. It happened after the economic collapse of Germany and its experience with hyperinflation, as it did with Russia's inexperience with democracy, which really allowed Lenin and later Stalin to step in and take power of the Soviet Union. So definitely, one of the best ways to avoid dictatorships is to stop it before it starts. Be alert for leaders who use economic and political problems to promote themselves. I would argue that one of the most understated tools used by dictators to gain their power is their ability to shape their public image or opinion through a cult of personality, through the practice of indoctrination, and through the use of nationalism to a certain extent. My lesson is to not get too devoted to a leader or state from their outward appearance. Their image might not be the same as their true ambitions. Dictators use indoctrination, nationalism, and a cult of personality all the time to change their perception. Adolf Hitler was famous for using the Hitler Youth as a way to influence the young, declaring greatness and demanding devotion to his German Reich, and creating a cult of personality by broadcasting his life at the Karl Steinhaus, the Eagle's Nest. These actions ultimately led to Hitler's gain of power in Germany. However, if we take a moment to question our loyalty to certain leaders and nations, we can avoid dictatorships and mitigate their power. Hi, glad to have you with us today, Michael. Alright, let's go ahead and begin. Yes, let's get started, shall we? How do you think dictators gain or maintain their power? Okay, so the use of violence, fear, and the secret police definitely is a major factor to a dictator's power. So many of the most infamous dictators in history have used fear and their personal secret police for their personal gain. You can look at the NKVD under Stalin, or in their mass terrorism against Russians, or Hideki Tojo's Japanese Kempeitai, and their atrocities and tortures against people. So many of these leaders use fear, especially in combination with a type of secret police, in order to topple opposition and demand full power. I see. So is there a lesson you'd like to share from this to avoid a dictatorship in relation to this? Fear and violence is a powerful tool, but it can only get stronger with silence. If you recognize any signs of a leader using intimidation, or possibly a secret police, don't be scared to have courage. You have rights. Be prepared to defend them with your life. There's a Japanese proverb that says, "Fear is only as deep as the mind allows it to be," and it's completely true. The power of fear is completely dependent on how we, as a society, view it. If we collectively fight back against it, the secret police and fear would need to either go to extreme lengths or succumb to the power of society. Thanks for your input, Michael. Hi. We can just get straight to the point, eh? Dictators use religious and ethnic persecution, also known as scapegoating, as well as censorship to gain and maintain their power. Leaders like Stalin often practice persecution against certain groups, like the kulaks, and use censorship to hide information that opposes him or the government's actions. However, this brings me to my lesson. Don't let a leader's lies deceive you, and thoroughly research to find a true answer. If you don't accept a leader or government's persecution of others, and control the media, they won't have total power over you. Oftentimes, you can find the truth behind the dictator's lies by searching hard enough, rendering their censorship useless to you. One of the most talked about tools utilized by totalitarian dictators is their use of propaganda, and for good reason. Say you go out in public and hold a survey, asking something like, when you hear about the tools of totalitarianism, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Probably propaganda.
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 What?
Propaganda.
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 Practically every single dictator in history has used propaganda in some way, shape, or form. From Joseph Stalin to Benito Mussolini to Mao Zedong, all of these dictators use propaganda to make themselves look better or make their opposition look worse, using different forms of media. To avoid being affected by propaganda, you can form your own beliefs and opinions using your own judgment. If you don't let a leader's words affect your thoughts, they can't have total control over you or your actions. This, as a result, would weaken the power of a dictatorship through propaganda. If everybody, as a single unit, decide to form their own opinions instead of following the dictator's statements, their chokehold on society will be almost completely nullified.